Welcome to the Boundless Bible. My name is David Shapiro.
Hey, I'm Javi Marquez.
And I'm Jason Holloway.
So today we're going to go over a really tiny story in the Bible. It's only one chapter long.
Yeah.
But man, does it cause a lot of conversation. I've heard a lot of people debate it. I've heard a lot of people say it's absolutely not true. I've heard other people debate that it is true. It takes a lot of energy and time for one little chapter in Genesis.
Right.
And it's all about the Tower of Babel.
Babel. What a cool.
That
It's just a great name, right?
It is. It is. I should name an app after it.
Babel. Actually, I think there already is.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So after Noah and the flood,
Yep.
What God tells him is to repopulate the earth. Same thing as he told Adam and Eve, right? Is you're going to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
And they start doing exactly what he says. They are multiplying. They're working together. They're doing all these great things. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, while we're working together, building this city, let's build this tower. And they start working together to build this tower. And all of a sudden, when it seems like they're doing what God asks them to do, God splits them up,
Yeah.
separates them, changes their language, confuses it so that way they're all speaking in different ways and they can't understand each other anymore, and then sends them off to different parts of the world.
That's it.
And that's it. That's the story. And
That's it.
man, there are so many people that are really upset with God going, I don't understand how you could punish man for doing exactly what you've asked them to do.
To build a tower?
Well, not to build the tower, but to work together.
Yeah.
Remember, before the flood, they're evil, horrible people. Now it seems like these are good people working together and they're working on this tower. What's going on?
That's a good question. As I read it, I'm just thinking to myself, like, what's going on? Yeah, exactly it. I'm thinking like for them to build this tower, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Like you're going to build this incredible tower. You're going to come together and just at the time to even build towers, I thought was kind of amazing. Just the ingenuity of it. That's what I read.
It's no surprise that I'm going to say that I have to read this one. Again, this is another one I have to read as a ideological story. I have to read it as a meaning-based story because it's mainly because it's just very strange to understand in a literal way.
So for me, I look at this as a literal story that happened. I'm actually going to touch upon with the lineage. What was always interesting to me is when I first read the Bible a couple times, the lineage drove me nuts, and I don't understand why. And then I realized that, look, God never puts in lineage without a reason for it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that this is the reason, but when you look at the lineages that have now come from Noah, remember, the entire world is gone. It's just Noah and his family, so there's nobody else on earth right now. And when you look at the lineages, there's 78 families.
Okay.
And you go, okay, there's 78 families. What does that mean? Doesn't mean very much. When you look at linguists who study nothing but languages, what they have come to is there are approximately 70 original languages that all languages have come from.
Okay.
So when you start shortening, you go, what if this really did happen? There are 78 families that were split. The core original languages of 70 have spread from them. So when you start to narrow down where languages come from and you're like, hey, there are 70 original languages. Is this something, again, could be that this literally happened. It could just be a coincidence.
Yeah.
But the fact that lineages show 78, original languages comes to 70, it's pretty close to me. And so there are linguists who look at this and go, this is a literal truth of what happened. And there are other things that I'll touch upon in a second, but just because you had mentioned that lineage, it might have a purpose, and that might be the purpose, or it might not.
Well, and see, that's the interesting thing about the ideological looking at it, right? Like whether or not that is literally how it became those 70 languages, or this is a story that explains to people that, yes, we did repopulate the earth, or yes, there was a world after Noah, and then now we have to address the fact that there's multiple people who are living around the world. We have to address the fact that they speak different languages, and how can we do that? this is a great story to do that. But I'll talk about it later, and I don't want to jump into it yet. But I actually think the story is kind of a really interesting blessing and not a curse. But I'll hold that thought for later.
Okay. Out of curiosity, Javi, what do you think so far about the literal versus, is this a lesson to be learned? Is this literal? Where do you stand?
I think it's literal. I think it did happen. And I feel like that although there is a lot of similarities throughout the Bible with it that we could touch upon later on, I think that happens here at the Tower of Babel. But I take it literal. I take it when I look back at the genealogy of like maybe even thinking about our origin as human species or just kind of our background within ethnicities and stuff like that. I think, that it stemmed from here.
Okay. I do have some archaeological facts to kind of go over real quick. This is the first time where I'm really jumping into some archaeology, so just bear with me. But when you look at ancient Mesopotamia, and when I say ancient Mesopotamia, this is prior to written language,
okay,
which is around the time that Babel would have been. This is prior to their having any type of writing. There were two expansions from cities. Okay, so when you do an expansion from a city, typically people lived in one space. They don't travel outside of that space very much.
Right.
So they had two major expansions. This one happened to be the largest. Back in ancient Mesopotamia times, there was one that was really, really large. And it was during the Uruk period, which would have been the period that would have occurred during the Tower of Babel. And they actually, it's a really cool name. It's Eridon is the town they would have been in. Sounds very Lord of the Rings.
I was going to say, I was thinking Aragon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Eridon. But what you have is this proof of this sudden expansion. They didn't develop any new technology. They didn't pottery and things like that. Literally moved from one spot and spread out east, west, north, south.
Yeah.
Immediately, something happened that caused them to leave, and then nobody inhabited that city for hundreds of years.
Really?
And it happened all of a sudden. So there's number one.
Okay.
Number two, there is something called the Tower of Babel Stele. Okay. And this is when Nebuchadnezzar II, which is dated around 600 BC, talks about the original ziggurat, which is built around the time of Hammurabi, which would have been close to that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to continue it. He wants to build upon it. So he's talking about building upon this ziggurat that's there. There's also something called the text of Shakal-Azari. And this is the king of Agade, who also mentions a temple tower in Babylon. And this reigned around 2000 BC. So these are a couple of archaeological proofs that there was some sort of major tower, some sort of ziggurat that was built.
Wasn't the town of Babylon or the city of Babylon actually called Babel in the Hebrew?
It was.
Or was it referred to as?
It's Babalu, and it means gate to God.
Oh, wow.
Look at all that. Yeah, look, I mean, I use the word etiological with great respect because the thing I've learned about that is that it's not saying that they're making up a story. It's not a made up origin story. It's a story that comes from something that was true, or at least the historical things that seem to have happened, right?
Yeah.
And so, like when I say that I have to see it one way, it's because the story is kind of supernatural. Not kind of, it's supernatural, right? And that part of it I can't quite prove, and so I just tend to like focus on the meaning part of it. Not to say I don't think it's literal, because look, you just handed over some pretty convincing, literality to it. But
man, there are a lot of people who still debate it,
and there's still
and
there's still a lot of information to be drawn from it, right? Mm-hmm. Like even if it happened literally, which maybe it did, not here to say it's not, but even if it did, it's got so many great messages to it as well, and it offers a lot of questions. Like, first of all, why wouldn't God want people to create something great? What do you guys think?
Well, what I get out of the story was they're creating something that is for themselves. It's like, right. It's not really it's not like the holies of holies. They're not creating this place for God to dwell in, and we're doing this for you. We're going to create something higher and for the vanity of it. That's what I take from it. And that's why God came down and said, I'm going to cast you out and spread you out.
And I know that, the ziggurats culturally, were actually used for deities to connect What's more interesting than that is they weren't even built as a holy of holies where you could dwell with God.
Right.
They built these not to get to heaven, which a lot of people go, no, they're building these so that they can be in the heavens. It was actually a place where they can force the God to be with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is now. So if you look at it, you go, okay, if you're building this place where you're trying to force God's hand to be where you are, then I could see that as, hey, God doesn't like this, and maybe it could be looked at. I'm punishing you. I don't want this, and I'm going to punish you. I do have different takes on that, but I'm curious, why you ask and where you're.
I'm still in the same place. Like I think that look, Noah just happened because God said man is destructive, self-serving, is essentially evil, and I need to destroy them. Right?
Yeah.
I sorrowfully need to destroy it. I need to wipe this slate clean. I need to start over. And then what happens right after they repopulate the earth?
Yeah.
They start to do the same selfful things again. They start to do the same things that are self-serving. They start to do the same things that are about them and not about God. Now, are they evil this time? Not necessarily, but they're definitely not following God. They're following their own ambition.
Right.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And now the question is, and even more so, they're not doing it individually. They're doing it collectively. So now, if you look at the Bible as like this maturing from like babyhood to like growing up the teenager, now you have like a teenage world and it's getting a little bit more organized. It's a little bit less chaotic, but it's equally selfish. It's equally bad. And so this time it's like, well, I already promised you I wasn't going to destroy y'all. So I'm going to do something else.
Yeah,
I'm going to split you up.
Right.
You're like, what do you do when the play date's going bad? It's like, I got to put you guys in other rooms. And so, he had to put you in other rooms. So everybody had to learn their lesson. So that's kind of what my major takeaway from it is. Although I have a few more.
No, I think what's interesting is when you look at Genesis 11:6, and I'm just going to read it. And the Lord said, behold, they are one people and they have one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now become impossible for them. And a lot of people are saying, well, who's he talking to? And they think it's the Trinity right now talking. And he's saying that basically people are getting too powerful again.
Yeah.
And nothing will be impossible for them. And then people look at God and they say, well, what a bad God for not allowing people for this. But again, let's go to language because language is very important.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Hebrew original, lo bashar is what was used for the word impossible. And that's actually not the word impossible. What it means is restrain. And
restrain.
So when you read it in a certain way, you're now saying that nothing they propose to do can be restrained for them.
Okay.
So it's basically humans again, taking that act, going ahead. Nothing's going to restrain them from going into territories they're not ready to be in yet.
Right.
Same as Adam and Eve.
Right.
Same. Hey, you're not ready to be, or you can't be restrained. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the trouble for now. We know now we can connect all languages. Right now, language does not divide us whatsoever.
Yeah.
At that moment, I think humans were going through that same error. Hey, you're running too fast. You're about to do something bad. You're not going to restrain yourself. I'm going to.
Yeah. So to that point, that's like one of the other big takeaways for me is it's like, if we all spoke the same language, if we were all homogenous and we had the same culture and we all did those same things, we would end up being these Babel people. Like we would end up self-serving ourselves and thinking that we have all the answers and we know all the answers because we all believe each other. We all agree with each other. We all speak the same language.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean necessarily you're not going to serve God, but one of the things that happens when you split the languages up is the homogeneity goes away. All of a sudden, you have diversity. And now, in order for, not just diversity of language, it's diversity of culture, which means what? Diversity of thought. Diversity of thought means what? You have to keep your thoughts on a pivot, right? You have to keep them on a swivel because you got to keep thinking of other stuff. We in this group right here don't continue to grow because we have the same thoughts.
Right.
We continue to grow because we continue to learn about each other's pasts and their histories and their thoughts and so forth and so on. And I think that's just what Babel is. I don't think it's a curse. I think it's a gift.
Right.
I think it's the time in the biblical history where people are split off into many different parts so that they're able to grow you just said it yourself, David, that people weren't ready for this,
Yeah.
right? What weren't they ready for? They weren't ready for the world. They were ready for their little part of the world, but they weren't ready for the world. They weren't ready for the experiences that are out there. And so this was their opportunity to do that.
What I take from it is like, and that was beautiful. Thank you, Jason, for that. Because I think you hit it right at the head, right? I think it is a gift. And God's plan to me is what I see. And his plan was, I'm telling you guys, go out there and scatter, go out to the world and multiply.
Right.
You didn't. You wanted to stay in this little circle, this little thing right here, and create this tower and let it be about yourself. Now I have to come and do this. Separate you guys.
That's fair too.
And
I hadn't thought about that.
God's plan is never faulting, is always going to happen. Even though he rather it be an easy way, they made it hard.
We make it hard for ourselves, right?
That's what I see from Tower of Babel, and
That's good. There are actually a lot of scholars that believe that very thing. That is what happened. That God gave them the command. They were not following that command, so he pushed them out to do it. But again, I still don't see God as being wrong or mean or disrespectful to man for doing that. In fact, for me, I'm kind of in the position of it being a blessing as well. My point of view is, if you look right now at the world and you say, hey, do you know that the flood story is the exact same flood story as this culture or that culture? You go, you know what? There are over 200 cultures that have
the same
a flood story.
right?
Yeah.
You have the ziggurats, and where are you finding ziggurats? You're finding them in South American countries. You're finding them all over the place. And I'm going, this is not only a blessing in terms of, hey, go and see the world and experience the world, but I'm going to connect you all because you all went to different parts of the world with all of the lessons that you had from this small part. So when we connect back together, we can recognize we're all brothers, we're all sisters, we're all related, I think it's a blessing because we all have these parts of history and these stories in our culture that relate, and we go, hey, maybe we're not so different. Maybe this flood story isn't about yours is right and mine's wrong, but it's the same flood story because the flood happened.
Right.
And as we separated to different cultures, we took that story and put our spin on it. But it's all the same thing. It all came from the same place. And I feel like it's a blessing because we weren't ready at the moment. God separated us. Now we're coming back together going, we're all brothers and sisters. We all have the same story. And now we can actually communicate through different languages and learn them and be part of that together.
And to some extent, we had to earn our way back to it, right? Like it wasn't
100%.
We had to earn our way back to it. And this is the story of the Bible, is that we're constantly ahead of ourselves, thinking that we're ready for things that we are not ready for. Adam and Eve, like you so correctly called out previously, were going to be given the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but they just weren't ready yet. And the same thing happens with so many people. And how, in our own lives, how many things do we think that we are ready for, and we just are not?
It's good.
I think that happens with prayer. People say all the time, well, I'm not getting answers to my prayer. And sometimes that answer is, not yet.
You're not ready.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
And that's, man, it's such a huge lesson for us to learn today, where it's just, we're so quick to do everything fast. I want to get the newest technology as quickly as possible. I want to cook my food as quickly as possible. Everything is about speed. I think about it all the time. And it's funny because my wife's favorite ride in Disney is the Carousel of Progress.
Yeah.
And you start to see how slow the world used to be.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, it takes me 2 days to wash the laundry.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I can't imagine the world going slower and being able to get everything done.
Yeah.
But they did. And now we're going faster and faster and faster and faster. And sometimes God's like, slow down.
Well, and spiritually now we're going faster and faster too. It's like, well, I had a really good sermon on Sunday. I should be going to heaven by Wednesday, right? Like we're like, oh, I got it. I just watched a YouTube clip. It just told me everything I needed to know about Christianity. I'm done. Let me just go do that. Yeah. Like it's not that easy, right? There's work that has to be put into it.
Or vice versa. People lose their faith that quickly because
they didn't get the reward that quickly. Right.
Or they saw a video and they said, no, that video said this. I'm not going to actually research it. The video said this and this is what it is. And I'm shutting down.
I was going to say, you guys mentioned about doing things fast. Is that relating to the Bible? I mean, to the Babel, the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, totally. I think that the problem with them was they immediately, as soon as they organized themselves, they tried to build something to the heavens. And in fact, I was going to read too. Again, I love this AMP Bible because it puts different words in my mouth. But it says, Genesis 11:6, and the Lord said, "Behold, they are one." AMP says unified people, and they all have the same language. This is only the beginning of what they will do. AMP Bible says, in rebellion against me. And now no evil thing they imagine can do will be impossible for them. So he's saying, the context is saying very clearly what they're doing is evil. He's saying what they're doing is against me. The humans are trying to build like you said, the ziggurat is to make God come down from heaven, which in a sense is them being impatient and waiting for him to come in his time. Mm-hmm. They're trying to build this bridge to heaven and force God to do what they want, as opposed to the other way around. And this is what we do spiritually. This is that whole prayer episode we talked about. It's not about getting the genie God to do what you want. It's about submitting yourself to the will of God, to becoming submissive and obedient and patient enough to wait for the will of God. And this is not what they're doing.
See, I agree with what you were saying before, but I don't know if it relates to the Babel, Tower of Babel, because in Scripture, the verse 4 is saying that they wanted to build this to the heavens to make a name for themselves.
Yes.
Not to create a place for God to come to them, but a thing for yourself. Like, look what we could do. We could build something to the heavens. So it's more, like I said, back to vanity. So I don't know if it relates for us in patience for God to do something for us, or having faith that he will make it happen. To me, it's the vanity part of it.
No, I agree, but I think it both.
So I'm trying to relate. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm trying to figure out.
So I think both are true. I think yes, it's ego and pride and vanity that's getting them to, we're going to do this for ourselves. But they're also trying to force God's hand, and I think that also the timing is, does God not want to dwell with us? He spent the entire Bible wanting to dwell with us again. He gave his only son to dwell with us again. So it's, yes, I want to dwell with you. This isn't the way how. This isn't it. Forcing my hand and trying to build something to me is not how this is going to happen. But I'm going to use this instead of for punishment. I'm going to use it for good. And I'm going to take it 1,000, 4,000, years from now. And I'm going to connect you all with this common story and common ancestry. And you're going to feel really great about this. It's just not time yet. So it's both. It's pride.
I agree.
Pride is definitely, man always succumbs to his pride. But I think that we also need to submit to God's timing.
Well, pride, to your point, Javi, I agree with you. But I think that pride and patience are infinitely intertwined. I can be patient if I trust that you know what you're doing. I can't be patient if I think I know better what's going on.
Yeah.
And if I know this should happen now, then my pride gets involved. I just committed two sins at once, right? It's like, so I don't think they're separate. I think they're the same. I agree with you.
That's good. I think for today, going back into what we talk about, it's your prayer, it's your life, it's what you're rushing into. Taking a moment and praying about it and talking to God about it. I just think these are one of those things where when you're reading the story, none of that exists.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve dwelled with God. They didn't hold up and go, wait a minute, let's talk to him first. Let's pray about this first. Let's do so. Tower of Babel, they didn't say, wait.
They trusted themselves before they trusted God. Again, same kind of story, right? It's
and I think that's what today, there are people who are doing the exact same thing.
I know, I do it all the time. It's like I'm a very impatient person. That's like that's just my thing. And it's not because it's not because I don't want to say it's because I think I know better, but at the same time I'm like, but I know I could just get it done if I just do it this way.
You could do it.
Right? But I just think I could do it. And it's just it is a form of pride. And that's why I'm kind of why I can tie the two together, because I know how they're connected. So I think a lot of people they want it all and they want it right now. And maturity, both spiritual and human maturity, is knowing that you just got to wait sometimes. You got to go through the pain sometimes. You got to have some of the bumps in life to learn the lessons. You got to get the scars to learn the lessons. Nobody wants them, but you got to get them. And this is another one of those things. If you stand back and say, okay, I know this is all for a purpose. I know this is all for a reason. I know that this is coming for my benefit, although it feels like suffering. When you can do that, you're gonna find better fruit.
What's really great about this is we started off by saying this is a really small part of the Bible. This is one chapter in one book, and it has so much to it. There's so much conversation. I don't think that is by accident either.
Not at all.
I think that God breathed this story specifically for people to talk about it over and over and over again and debate about it and soak it in and dive as deep as they can to get different lessons out of it.
Totally.
And I think the surface lesson is, hey, we're disobedient. We are prideful. We're running too fast. I think deeper level is, look, we're connected as brothers and sisters. We have the same story. We have the same, you talk about God and, how can somebody in a country that's never heard of Jesus accept him? I think he's written in our hearts because from the very beginning, this is a story that started where everybody came from that exact same story.
Yeah.
And I just think in their culture and their explanation of it, they deep down know it. I just think that this is a beautiful, deep story. And I love, that we were able to share that with you guys today.
So thank you guys for listening. As always, fun conversation that went ways I don't think any of us expected them to go. But that's the fun of this. So we appreciate your time. Please send some comments, some questions, some curiosities, some topics you want to touch on, and we can't wait to get to them. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you next week.
Later.
Bye. Charcoal, sorry.